You've probably noticed how differently women can behave in relationships. One seems devoted to the point of obsession, as if her man is the only person who exists. Another seems equally committed, but her actions tell a different story. She makes eye contact with strangers, laughs a little too loudly at another man's jokes, or casually mentions how attractive her coworker is. Both claim loyalty. Both say they love their partners. Yet one strengthens trust, while the other erodes it with small, calculated acts that feel like emotional sabotage. Most men dismiss these differences. They think women who flirt are simply friendly, or that jealousy is just a harmless game. They don't realize that behind those small gestures lies something far more ancient and strategic. Jealousy is a psychological weapon. Here's the part that most men never see. Female jealousy isn't random. It doesn't appear by accident. It's not even always conscious. It's a system rooted in biology, refined by centuries of social survival, and deployed with surgical precision to control, test, and manipulate the men in their lives. When she mentions how another man complimented her, she knows it unsettles you. When she lingers too long in conversation with a stranger, she knows your stomach knots. When she recalls her ex in casual conversation, she knows your pulse changes. Those reactions give her information. They reveal your sensitivity, your thresholds, your emotional weak points. And whether she admits it or not, that knowledge gives her leverage. The genius of these tactics is the cover they carry. She can deny the intent every time. I was just being polite. You're overreacting. I can't even talk about my coworkers. Each statement frames you as the problem. She remains innocent while you become controlling or insecure. It's a game of emotional chess played with plausible deniability. This is what makes jealousy different from other relationship conflicts. With most problems, the cause is visible. With jealousy, the cause is disguised. You're not supposed to point it out because pointing it out makes you look weak. And that's exactly why it's so effective. What men often miss is that these behaviors tend to unfold in phases. The first phase is subtle, almost invisible. She's testing the waters. She drops small details about other men. She delays responses. She includes unnecessary commentary about male attention. None of it is obvious enough to confront. But that's the point. She's building a profile of how you react, how much you tolerate, and where your emotional boundaries lie. Then comes the conditioning. Once she knows your triggers, she starts using them. If you react strongly, she punishes you through withdrawal, coldness, or escalation. If you ignore it, she rewards you with temporary peace. You begin to adjust, sometimes without realizing it. You become hyper-aware of her interactions, monitoring, analyzing, trying to stay calm. But inside, you're unsettled. That state of constant vigilance is exactly what she wants. It keeps you emotionally tied to her. Finally, when the system is fully established, the weapon is ready. Now she can deploy it whenever she needs control. Maybe you resisted her request. Maybe you disappointed her. Maybe she simply wants to remind you that she could choose someone else. The behavior appears again: flirting, stories, subtle references, and instantly, you're back in that state of unease. She doesn't have to scream, doesn't have to threaten. She just activates the triggers she already mapped out. The strangest part is that most women don't sit down and plan this. They don't consciously think, I'm going to manipulate him today. It's deeper than thought. It's instinct. A system written into their psychology by evolution itself. In the environments of the past, where survival depended on securing resources, protection, and the best possible mates, this programming had purpose. By keeping multiple men invested, by constantly testing commitment and dominance, a woman increased her chances of survival. Today, those instincts are out of place. They don't serve the same survival function. Instead, they create chaos, mistrust, and psychological warfare in relationships that could otherwise be stable. But the biological code is still running whether we like it or not. That's why logical arguments rarely work. You can't sit down and negotiate away jealousy tactics. You can't reason with unconscious programming. It's like trying to bargain with hunger or gravity. The system isn't designed to listen, it's designed to operate. And here's the most dangerous twist. Every time you react by chasing harder, giving more, or competing with imagined rivals, you reinforce the system. You teach her that these tactics work. Once she knows they work, she'll keep using them. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because her psychology rewards her when you give more attention, more effort, more investment. This is why so many men feel trapped in relationships that are draining their peace. They confuse intensity with love, conflict with passion. They believe that if she can make them feel this jealous, it must mean she's special. But what they actually experiencing is conditioning, being hooked on a cycle of threat and reward that keeps them emotionally addicted. You might wonder why this cycle feels so powerful, why it's so difficult to escape. The answer lies in the way jealousy exploits your natural instincts. As a man, your protective drive is strong. You want to secure what's yours to protect your relationship from threats. That instinct, which once served survival, is turned against you. When she flirts, when she hints at other options, your instinct tells you to respond with more effort. You treat her better, give her more attention, invest more energy. What you don't see is that this is exactly what her unconscious programming wants. By creating insecurity, she extracts greater effort from you. The more threatened you feel, the harder you work to keep her close. This is the trap. Jealousy doesn't just test you, it trains you. Over time, you begin to accept her behavior as normal. You stop questioning whether it's disrespectful. Instead, you question yourself, your reactions, your judgment, your sanity. You start asking, am I overreacting? Am I being paranoid? That doubt is the real weapon. Because once you doubt yourself, you lose your ability to hold boundaries. And boundaries are everything. Without them, you're not respected. Without respect, attraction dies. And without attraction, the relationship rots from within. The most dangerous part of jealousy tactics is how they corrupt your trust in your own perception. When you feel unsettled, but she insists you're imagining things, you begin to mistrust your own instincts. This is not an accident. The system only works if you question yourself more than you question her. That's why jealousy feels like gaslighting. You see something that makes you uncomfortable, you bring it up, she dismisses it, and now you're the one apologizing. You walk away not only with the discomfort still inside you, but also with guilt for even noticing it. Over time, this trains you to stay silent, to tolerate, to suppress. The cost of this silence is enormous. Your self-confidence erodes. Your sense of stability collapses. You carry constant stress, a low-level anxiety that follows you everywhere. And eventually, you no longer know where her manipulation ends and your weakness begins. But here is the truth that changes everything. Jealousy tactics are not really about the other men. They're about you. They're designed to test your strength, to see if you're the kind of man who will bend under pressure or the kind who stands firm. When she flirts in front of you, she isn't necessarily trying to leave you. She's trying to measure you. She wants to see if you'll betray your own standards just to keep her. If you do, she learns you can be controlled. If you don't, she learns you can't. That difference determines the future of the relationship more than anything else. This is why many men never escape the cycle. They try to compete with the imaginary rivals instead of holding the line with the woman in front of them. They buy flowers, they double down on dates, they smother her with affection. And in doing so, they reward the very behavior that is undermining their peace of mind. The real answer isn't to compete, it's to enforce. It's calmly, firmly, without anger. You don't need to scream or threaten. You simply make it clear that disrespect has consequences. Not ultimatums, not drama, just boundaries. When you demonstrate that her tactics don't work on you, the game changes. At first, she may escalate. The tests may become more obvious, more blatant. That's because she's looking for cracks in your armor. But if you remain consistent, if you respond the same way every time, the testing eventually stops. Not because she decides to be kind, but because her psychology adapts. She learns that the weapon doesn't work on you. The paradox is this: the less you react to jealousy, the more loyalty you inspire. Not because she suddenly becomes a saint, but because her instincts push her toward men who can't be controlled by manipulation. To her subconscious, that signals strength. And strength is the foundation of attraction. It's brutal, but simple. The men who collapse under jealousy lose respect. The men who stand firm under jealousy gain it. And respect is the oxygen of desire. Without it, nothing survives. Understanding this doesn't make the tests easier to endure. They can still sting. But reframing them as evaluations rather than attacks changes everything. You stop taking it personally. You start seeing it as what it really is. A biological stress test designed to measure your capacity for leadership and composure. Think about it. Military units don't select soldiers by giving them comfort. They test them under maximum pressure. Only those who stay calm under fire are trusted with the hardest missions. In the same way, women use jealousy not to ruin you, but to measure you. If you collapse when she flirts with a coworker, how will you stand when life delivers a real crisis? From her perspective, she needs to know, because her survival instincts don't care about your feelings. They only care about whether you can carry weight under pressure. This is why logic and discussion rarely solve jealousy. You're trying to talk away a program that was never written in words. The only response she recognizes is strength. Calm, consistent, unshakable strength. In today's world, these ancient dynamics are amplified by technology. In the past, her sphere of male attention was limited to her village, her town, maybe her workplace. Now her phone connects her to hundreds of men instantly. Social media, dating apps, even casual DMs create a constant stream of validation and options. For you, this means the battlefield is no longer just the bar, the office, or the dinner table. It's digital. Every photo she posts, every message she receives, every like or comment becomes another variable in the system. And here's the critical part. Plausible deniability is easier than ever. If you question her posts, she calls it innocent. If you question her inbox, she says you're insecure. The cycle repeats with new tools, but the psychology is the same. This abundance of attention doesn't necessarily make her happier. In fact, it often makes her more restless, because when options are endless, satisfaction is harder to sustain. She's constantly evaluating, comparing, testing, not because she's malicious, but because her programming is on overdrive. For men, this creates a dangerous trap. You feel like you're competing not just with the men she sees, but with the endless supply of men she could see. And when you try to outcompete them, when you give more attention, more effort, more sacrifice, you reinforce the very behavior that's destabilizing your relationship. This is the core danger of jealousy tactics. They teach you to fight battles you can't win. You can't outcompete an entire digital world. You can't outgive someone who thrives on validation. The only sustainable path is to step outside the game entirely. That doesn't mean ignoring disrespect. It means refusing to play the role of the insecure competitor. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't monitor her phone or interrogate her friends. You set your standards clearly. Loyalty, respect, and honesty. And you enforce those standards calmly, without apology. This is the shift that most men never make. They believe their security depends on her behavior. In reality, their security depends on their own. When you stop needing her loyalty to validate your worth, you gain the strength to demand it without fear. When she realizes jealousy no longer shakes you, she faces a choice. She can escalate into obvious disrespect, which exposes her, or she can abandon the tactics and invest in genuine loyalty. That moment of choice reveals everything. The woman who values control more than connection won't stay when her weapons fail. And that's a gift, because it saves you years of slow erosion. The woman who values respect will adapt, shifting her energy from testing you to supporting you. That's the foundation of real partnership. But this requires a brutal transformation in you. You have to stop equating her attention with your worth. You have to stop believing that jealousy means passion. You have to stop mistaking emotional chaos for love. These illusions keep men trapped in relationships that drain them. Breaking free means building your validation from within, not from her approval. It also means accepting that not every woman will change. Some will cling to jealousy tactics because they've worked before, because they feel safer when you're unsettled. You can't fix that. What you can do is refuse to participate. You walk away not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And in doing so, you create space for relationships that build peace instead of chaos. The paradox of jealousy is that the men least affected by it receive the most loyalty, not because they demand it, but because their strength naturally commands it. Women test until they know they can't control you. Once they know, the tests stop. Respect replaces manipulation. Desire grows where fear once ruled. So ask yourself, are you teaching her that jealousy works, or are you showing her it doesn't? Every reaction you give is a lesson. Every boundary you enforce is a signal. Every time you refuse to be manipulated, you strengthen your position. This is the path out of the trap. Not competing harder, not giving more, not pleading for peace, but embodying the kind of strength that renders jealousy tactics useless. When you master that, you don't just survive relationships, you lead them. If these insights open your eyes, remember this is only the beginning. Understanding human psychology, attraction, and power dynamics is a lifelong process. Subscribe to this channel to keep exploring the truths that most men only learn the hard way. Because the sooner you see clearly, the sooner you can stop playing games. You were never meant to win and start building relationships that truly respect you.